You ready to go watch some Anima?
It's Amina for starters.
Is it Mina?
That's what you have in the notes.
I thought it was an. Oh, I put Amina. It's Anima.
Oh, wow, you suck.
Anima. Yeah.
You just suck.
I can't read or write. Never learned. Thom Yorke is. We're going over Thom Yorke's latest album, Amina. Anima. They just said it wrong earlier. I'm sorry. Am I off? I'm off my cerebral cortex right now. My equilibrium. Because I was sick yesterday. Now I'm not. I'm cleared. I'm good. Don't beat me. Do not beat. Please, sir, don't beat me up. I'm Jack White. Thom Yorke is the English singer-songwriter, the frontman of Radiohead, and this latest project, Anima, is produced by his longtime friend and collaborator, Nigel Goodwich. It's a mix of alt-rock, electronica, glitch, and IDM, and it has this weird gimmick going for it, at least in the promotion, called Anima Technologies, which is this dream camera to recover lost dreams, which is interesting. I don't think it really plays out into the music much, but this entire project, at least the background behind it, from what I was able to grab on the world's greatest resource, what is it?
Wikipedia.
It's inspired by when Thom Yorke saw Flying Lotus do an improvised live set with loops, and Yorke and Nigel developed Anima through live performances and studio work. Yorke would send Godric's sprawling unfinished tracks, and Godrich would edit the tracks into shorter samples and loops, which Yorke wrote lyrics to. I also know some of these songs were intended to be Radiohead songs at one point, because I know Dawn Chorus was intended to be a Radiohead song for, I think, Moonshade Pool, because it was in an interview he mentioned his favorite Radiohead song to date was Dawn Chorus, the one he was working on currently. So that was interesting. Yorke said the themes include anxiety and dystopia for some reason, and quote from him, "For some reason I really thought a good way of expressing anxiety creatively was in a dystopian environment. The title Anima is a reference to the psychotherapist Carl Jung's concept of the anima and animus, came from Yorke's obsession with dreams." So, interesting idea. I was really, I guess for the most part, I was really interested in this, but I also know Thom Yorke's had previous solo material that I haven't been too keen on. My experience with Radiohead in the past is I like pretty much all of Radiohead's discography. I think there is some bad points like King of Limbs and Pablo Honey that are just pretty meh, and I think they're very of their own times. Like King of Limbs was very 2010s alternative, while the Pablo Honey was very grungy 90s music. But I think for most part, my experience with Radiohead has been a positive experience, and my experience with Thom Yorke's solo material has just been kind of lame. They just either seem like B-sides, or they've just seen like cuts that should have been Radiohead cuts. And he put out a soundtrack last year for, what was the movie? Suspiria. And that just seemed like the same Radiohead track over and over again. Just this very slow Moonshade Pool style cut over and over. And I just wasn't really interested in that album. But for this, I was just surprised to see where it would go, or at least interested to see where it would go. And I was actually surprised where I feel like this stands out on its own for the most part for me. I don't see it as a Radiohead album where there's some similarities. I'm not saying this thing is completely a new idea, because it does have Thom Yorke on it, and there's some tracks on here, especially I think I'm a Very Rude Person and The Axe, that kind of sound like Radiohead cuts. But I think for the most part, we're getting this really weird, like loopy kind of like rapid eye movement type style of music, where I feel like my eyes are kind of going up and down. That glitchiness really plays in that idea. I think we're getting a dystopian soundscape. I don't really think we're getting dystopian ideas in the songwriting.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, have never been huge into Radiohead. I've always appreciated them. I've always liked what I've listened to, but they've never been a band that's spoken to me that much. It's one of those things.
Thom Yorke's never spoken to you personally.
Yeah, it's I can listen to it, I can appreciate it, but it's something that I'll never put on myself. It's always somebody else who puts it on.
Trevor's that way. He doesn't like Radiohead.
Yeah,
he doesn't like Thom Yorke's voice.
I don't dislike it, and I don't dislike his voice. It's just it's not something that's what I ever think of listening to. Yeah. It's just it's there, it's good, I appreciate it when it's on, but I will never put it on myself. And I think the same is going to be probably with this album. I liked it. I liked the kind of spacey world that it created, the kind of just out there and atmosphere and all of that stuff, but it's not one of those type of albums that's filled with that. That's like hit me that hard.
Yeah, I think the lyricism is really smart at points, but I don't think it's the sharpest tool in the shed for the most part. The lyricism isn't as most important as I think it is. With a lot of other Radiohead releases, it doesn't. There's a lot of good moments on here with lyricism, but I don't think it's as sharp as I kind of would expect a Thom Yorke project would be. There's some good moments like Traffic, where he's talking. It really gets into the dystopian themes, talking about submit, submerge, no body. He brings up a party with a rich zombie, crime pays, she stays in Kingston, in Chelsea. Which is an interesting idea of kind of partying with these politicians and these one percenters. And then, like, we get this weird, like, last I heard, he was circling the drain loop where he just says, I woke up with a feeling I could not take. And it's just repeated over and over and over again. Same thing with Twist, with the twist, 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 twist. It's just repeated all over again. I love these, like, glitchy loops we're getting into.
Those are probably my favorite parts.
Dawn Chorus is a beautiful moment where he's talking about how almost kind of wanting a fresh start, talking about Dawn Chorus, which I think is just a bunch of birds, is how they say birds are chirping, is dawn chorus, or at least a phrase of that similar nature. He says it's a bloody rocket, it's the dawn chorus, if you could do it all again, would you? There's really interesting ideas being played into. The Axe has this, again, one of those moments of dystopia, which is like minimal to this album, but I really like when they do show up, talking about goddamn machinery, why don't you speak to me, one day I'm gonna take an axe to you, you wooden soldiers, I'm daring to turn yourselves off, kind of almost praising himself as this like leader of sorts. But you can also apply it to relationships and how he deals with people, how he feels like he's in control of all these almost soldiers or robots of sorts, and how he feels like he has a higher power when in reality they're stronger than him.
Yeah.
I think there's some smart moments in lyricism, but I feel like a lot of times it just leads to ambience, which is really nice. But I feel like this thing it doesn't demand your presence too much. I think that's the biggest problem, where I feel like there isn't enough switch ups. While it's a nice ambience mix, it's not doing anything new with the styles of IDM and electronica here. Yeah. There's some good glitchy loops, but that's not the first time we've heard glitch loops like this. Like, I enjoy it. I think there's some good lyricism, some good performances. I just feel like some of these tracks don't stand apart from each other that much. They feel like they have the same like setup, where we'll get Thom at the beginning, and then we'll get into this like stretch of instrumental. We'll get another bit of Thom, but then we'll get into like the last leg that's just stretched out of instrumentation. It just seems really formulaic throughout, and I think the lyricism on this isn't super abstract to the point where it's like too complicated, but I think you get the main ideas throughout this. But I just think he's had better lyricism and more interesting things to say throughout. And yeah, that's all I really got to say. I enjoyed this. I had a lot of fun with this. This was one of the easier listens I've had in a little while to get through, but yeah, I just feel like it has its own problems. Keep in mind that all scores are futile, meaningless. Right now I'm feeling a 7 on this. I enjoyed it quite a bit, though.
I'm feeling 6.5.
Mm-hmm. Okay.